Samson Mow just dropped another bombshell saying that we could see Bitcoin shoot up 300K and then crash 200K in just a couple days, and we are closer than we thought to this hyper-Bitcoinization taking place. Samson Mow is the CEO of Jan3 and a key strategist in nation-state Bitcoin adoption. He goes around spreading the good word of Bitcoin and trying to get other nations to adopt it and understand its fundamentals. And we're going to dive into that clip, so stay tuned.
Watching Bitcoin climb higher feels like watching a train leave without you, but it's not too late. At Drip2 BTC, you can grow your Bitcoin like never before. Earn up to 3,000% APR on credit conversions and discounts on Bitcoin purchases. Step 1, buy Bitcoin. Step 2, deposit it. Step 3, let your wallet do the work. Don't miss this chance to change your life. Start today at drip2btc.com.
Hey guys, welcome back. Drip Coach here with Drip and Farm for Poverty, where we don't trust, we verify, and operate with integrity and transparency. Samson is the first person I heard the coin term Omega candle, and that's basically where you see a move of 100,000 or more. And we haven't seen that yet, but some of the information that Samson discusses in this clip kind of leads us to getting there a lot sooner than we expected.
I think once that really kicks into high gear, the executive order now just says don't sell and acquire in budget neutral strategies. But when they do actually have legislation that says go and buy, or if Howard Lutnick puts together one of those budget neutral strategies and starts executing acquisition, then I think we'll start to see a rush. And that rush is likely going to be something that we haven't ever seen before. It is going to trigger that rampage of capital into Bitcoin. That's when you see Omega candles, and that's when you see even more volatility. We could go up 300,000 and then down 200,000 in a couple days.
I have been mentioning that as well in my Telegram group, that I believe that this cycle has changed from the previous, and it's because it's officially available for retail and nation state governments, whatever you want to call it, like big institutional capital. They now have the guardrails in place to get into Bitcoin. That has never been allowed in previous cycles. So other cycles were led by retail, and they still followed the ebb and flow of this 4-year cycle based off of monetary policy, but you didn't have the big players with the big money influencing that monetary policy directly into Bitcoin. So it was primarily retail. And now at this stage, like you mentioned, we don't have any regulation saying actually acquire Bitcoin. We just have don't sell it. And we don't know what other countries are doing in regards to buying it. But clearly, if that is going on right now, it's not a huge amount. So I believe whoever will be the first to make a public announcement or gets caught publicly buying, that will be a clear signal to other countries to dive in. And I believe that has to be the Western developed countries buying Bitcoin. So if it becomes as Michael Saylor said, a war that he wants the US to dominate and kind of destroy the financial viability of our not allies, well, it could be allies, but allies and enemies or frenemies, then we buy up the Bitcoin, and then your enemies enrich you, make you more valuable as they have to FOMO in afterwards. So none of that has happened, especially within the US. So we're still waiting for that to happen. But that would clearly definitely be a signal towards this Omega candle idea of 100, 200K pumps in one day. Like I could definitely see that happening. We're still sitting at a market cap for Bitcoin at 1.7 trillion. So there's still a lot of room for growth in this. But let's go to another clip where I never really thought about fiat this way, but the way Samson explains it, it's like, yeah, we definitely have to be living in some kind of bizarro world, in his words, or just completely ignorant to how this actually works. And we have to look back on this, think we were crazy to ever believe that this was a system that we kind of hedged our bets on.
Video. Eventually people will demand to be paid in Bitcoin because, you know, their suppliers, like the grocery store or department store, whatever, will want Bitcoin too. So it's just like an amplification of demand from all parts of society that want Bitcoin. So eventually you working for a company will have to ask the company, like, pay me in Bitcoin because I can't buy groceries with this paper anymore. But hyper-Bitcoinization, it depends on how you define it, but I define it as the point at which you no longer need to convert Bitcoin to fiat anymore. You can just live on a Bitcoin standard and earn sats and spend sats. But I believe it's coming faster than most people would expect, because these types of changes in money, in the base money that everyone uses are very quick changes. It's not a slow, gradual progression where, you know, in 2 years, maybe we'll be at 20%. And then another 2 years we'll be at 40%. It's quite exponential, because when most people stop wanting the fiat, then, you know, everyone stops wanting the fiat, because it's like a race against time to get rid of the fiat and get into something harder, which is Bitcoin. I would say we'll look back at the period up till 1971 as the monetary dark ages, this period of time in which nothing really made sense. Because if you think about it, when we went off the gold standard, all of a sudden, this paper that was designed to represent gold, you know, it's an IOU for gold, suddenly was disconnected. And you could now take this paper, and whoever can print the paper can make more of it to buy back that asset that was supposed to be represented by that paper. So it's like Bizarro world. Nothing really makes sense anymore, because you have a relatively finite hard asset in gold, and you have, you know, a representation of that asset in terms of paper or digital paper, whatever you want to call that. And now this can buy all of this. So, you know, if you really think about it and you sleep on it and you mull it over, it's like wacko that suddenly this valuable thing can be bought by this worthless thing. And this is sort of the conclusion of that experiment. And I think we'll look back, and in 50 or 60 years, historians will look back and say, wow, I can't believe we were so primitive that we were led to believe that, you know, this piece of paper had value. And that's sort of the realization that they'll look at it. Not, they say Bretton Woods type, you know, we agreed to do something, but it's just, we were all insane for decades using paper. We had a call.
That truly was kind of eye-opening for me. Like, I never simplified it that way. So remember, we went off the gold standard. So prior to coming off the gold standard, gold was the global transaction-based currency. So it was used in all sorts of things, from jewelry to weapons and all sorts of stuff. And then it became this way to transact if you wanted to get other things, you know. And then once that became no longer easy to do, like you had to carry around gold, and then they were shaving off parts of the coins to melt it down and all this other stuff. It's like, okay, we need someone else to hold this for us, because I can't carry around my gold bars and it's expensive and I can get robbed, blah, 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 blah. Okay, you banker, how about you hold on to my gold? It's like, okay, cool. We'll hold on to it. In exchange, we'll give you this note that shows how much gold we have in our vaults that belongs to you. And you can trade that note amongst one another much easier. So when they removed that backing, like he said, and then all of a sudden you can just make more of the note, the paper, and it can now buy more of the thing it was originally supposed to be backed by. Like, that is bizarre. That makes absolutely no sense. And yeah, like you said, you have to think, mull that over, sleep on it, and really process how broken the system is, because ever since then, everybody, all the central banks have just been making as much of this as they want. They control it, and then they use it to buy the limited assets that actually have value, to buy real estate, to buy land, to control the ebb and flow of markets for food and goods, security. Like, all the things that actually have value is being manipulated and controlled from the thing that has none, zero whatsoever. Like, from a military standpoint, back in the day, right, when you wanted to hire mercenaries or whatever to protect your civilians, your castle, you gave them in exchange for gold. Well, now those mercenaries, military, are laying down their lives for a piece of paper that has no value. Like, that is nuts. Like, I never thought of it like that. And like you mentioned at the very beginning, there's going to come a point where people, the grocery stores or whatever, are just like, I don't want that piece of paper anymore. And that has already happened in other countries where they have experienced hyperinflation. They want to get out. That's why I showed you guys Mauricio, because he was the co-founder of Ledden, and because that was happening in Venezuela to him in real time, where they were trying to hoard bicycle tires and batteries and anything else that would retain its value, because the paper had no value. This is within the last decade. So this is already happening in other countries in real time, while we sit here and breathe and watch this podcast or this video. I'm making it, but you're watching it. So it's not like we're immune to it. It's not like this is something decades down the road that's going to happen. No, it's already happened in developing countries. It just takes longer to trickle in to the Western developed ones, just due to the significance that they have on their currency. But I believe it's a canary in the coal mine, seeing it happen in other countries like Venezuela. They still have their own currency, of course. It's not like they've gone completely off of it. And even El Salvador has now had to get loans from the IMF. But we've seen that it's happening. Like, it will probably happen in our time frame. Like within the next decade or so, you're going to see more and more people on the individual level saying, I want to be paid in Bitcoin. As he said, reaching out to your boss or your employer, it's like, I want to be paid in Bitcoin. We've seen that with politicians and even some celebrities, I think, or what do you call those athletes accepting Bitcoin as payment. So that's that hyper-Bitcoinization coming into play. And I have no idea. I don't think it will take over the entire world. There will always be some kind of central currency, controlled currency, be that CBDCs rolling in, because as long as you live in a country and then they can control you via physical force and fear, then they will be able to control that money flow. But the ability for you to pack up your stuff and take your seed phrase in your head and go to another country, that is where we have the true power. We're able to opt out. So again, this is just truly fascinating. Like I never really wrapped my head around that. And that's why as of early this year, I started on my paycheck, I think 90% of it now basically goes into dollar cost averaging. So whatever I make each month in income, I just immediately, it goes into my bank, of course. I have no control over that because my employer that I work for right now doesn't allow for me to be paid in Bitcoin. So it's still in US dollar direct deposit, but I've already done the budgeting. So every little bit of that comes straight out and goes into buying Bitcoin. And then a portion of that that's left is in USDC instead on Coinbase because there's 5% interest. So it's happening. And I don't know how long it's going to take, where you'll see it in your country, but man, if people do not wake up, they will indeed get left behind. Samson discusses other issues in this video I'm not going to cover, but basically how he's seeing doing grassroots initiatives and talking to nation states, going in, letting them know about Bitcoin and how it can help their countries. And then behind the scenes, the IMF will come back and, talk to them, and all of a sudden they just go quiet and can't discuss anything with them anymore. So unfortunately, a lot of countries are still being strong-armed and kind of bullied into this old system, and the old guard is not going to let it go easily. But because of that, that just makes the opportunity for us that are in the know that much more opportune, because it will take longer before this entire system kind of implodes upon itself and we have this hyper Bitcoinization or whatever the case may be. So I believe I believe the system's actually going to coexist. I don't believe it's just going to take over, but I do believe you'll be able to walk into a place and they'll have both preferences available at some stage. It's like, yeah, we'll take, depending on the location. Like some places may not want their local currency at all, just like some will prefer US dollars over their local currency. And I think at some stage it'll be like, yeah, we accept our local, but we prefer Bitcoin. That would be the thing, and probably even US dollars. So I believe, like I mentioned before, there will probably be 3 to 5 world currencies to establish trade with, and that will be the new world order. Probably have another video coming up about Ray Dalio talking about that. I brought some clips on from him previously, but we are at a shift in the current economic order. And it's not that the US is going to completely lose control, but you can see that there are other countries fighting back against that. And if they can band together, like BRICS, China, Russia, Brazil, all that stuff, then they can trade amongst themselves to get what they need. And then together can be strong enough to influence other smaller countries to get the rest. So at that stage, they no longer have to deal with the US. They still will. It's not like we're going to just be going into a World War III, but it's like, okay, we no longer are forced to deal with you economically only. We now have some other countries that we can deal with. And I believe that's, like I said, could happen to like 3 to 5. And I could definitely see BRICS being the Asia side, something happening in the EU, and then of course, the US for North America, South America. And then that'll just actually make the global trade market that much stronger. And I think price of goods would actually come down again. But at the end of the day, Bitcoin will be that flight to safety that everybody's looking for, that have woken up and understand where we're headed, and you want to get there before the collapse. So I think Omega candles are definitely within our future. I don't know if we're going to see them by the end of the year. We could. It really depends on how this stuff shakes up right now with the tariffs and kind of political influence, economic stability. We got the M2 money supply. We got potential liquidity injections coming from Asia, China, and the US. So man, it could get pretty gnarly by June timeframe. So let's remember, I gave you guys the end of second quarter. We're still in the middle of April, so we still have a lot of time for this to unravel, and maybe even potentially still have a leg down that I was talking about. I don't know if that's still on the cards, but the markets do like to take the path of most pain. So people may think we're out of the woods, and literally it would just go down one more time and shake more people out to like that low 70 range. We'll see. All right, that's all I got. Smash that HBO special, help brother out, like, subscribe, comment down below. Until next time, live daily and achieve your impossible. See ya.
Want to pay your in real life bills with crypto? How about send crypto directly to anyone with a bank account? BRICS Finance is a decentralized solution to be your own bank and connect your crypto earnings to real world bills and payments. They do not take custody of your assets and allow support on multiple blockchains and Web3 wallets. Sign up below using my referral link and you will get $50 back when you make your first $50 bill payment with crypto. Additionally, I will be using referral bonuses to airdrop, donate, or burn based on community feedback. Sign up now.